Hello and welcome to Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. I'm your host, Keri. I'm very excited about my interview guest for today. You may have already heard of her. Her name is Kara Lynne. She is the former employee of Limited Run Games, who was the subject of a cancel culture mob recently and was fired for, from what I understand, for nothing more than posting opinions that some people online didn't like and for following some conservatives. No. So please welcome my guest, Kara. Hello. How
Hello,
are you?
hello. I'm fantastic. It's been a busy day, but this is kind of ending out the day. It's kind of like a nice little wind down for the evening.
Good. Well, I'm glad you could make time to do this. As I told you before we started, I wanted to interview you when I heard your story, and then we ended up on the same stream. We ended up on with Nina Infinity on Midnight's Edge, and about halfway through, I said, "Oh wait, I know who you are."
Yeah, it took us like an hour.
Yeah. So that was really, I felt really lucky. I was like, "Oh great, now I can see if she wants to talk to me."
The stars aligned.
Yeah. So first of all, for anybody who may not be, I said some of my audience is going to be familiar with the story. But for those who may not be, can you describe just briefly who you are, what your job was with Limited Run Games?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Kara. I was the community manager at Limited Run Games for about 2 years, a little over 2 years. And back in January, there was a particular community that didn't like. Well, so what I feel like it all kind of stemmed from was like the timing just just kind of doesn't make sense out of this. But about 8 days before all of this happened, I had tweeted my excitement that I like tweeted that I was excited about Hogwarts Legacy.
Wait, let's stop one second before we get into Hogwarts Legacy. So you were a community manager. What does that mean? What is your job for them?
So basically, I handled the social media. I handled like basically passing along any feedback from the community.
Okay.
I handled all the live streams. I did a lot of correspondence for the developers that we worked with, setting up events, that kind of stuff.
Okay. And so you tweeted you were very excited about Hogwarts Legacy coming out.
Hmm. Yes,
And
and
why is that a problem?
so basically, there's a big debate within the gaming community saying that if you support Hogwarts Legacy in any way, shape, or form, you are transphobic. Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
And that's because of its association with Harry Potter and
with
J.K.
J.K.
Rowling.
Rowling. Yes, they're like, oh well, she obviously is making money off this, and she's using it to support things that we don't agree with. So you helping her in any way or putting money in her pocket in any way is you basically hating this particular community of people.
It sounds very reasonable. I'm kidding.
The
It doesn't.
gymnastics people go through,
Yeah.
the
Just to say,
mental
I mean,
gymnastics.
so your job, you work for a gaming company.
Hmm.
Your job is with games. You
Yes.
express that you're excited about a game that's based around Harry Potter in some way, and then what happened?
So basically, after that, on January 6th, uh, yeah,
It took me a second.
everybody's January 6th is very different than my January 6th. Um, so I woke up that morning to a DM from a coworker saying, "Hey, just giving you a heads up, this is kind of circulating." And it was a tweet from an individual basically saying that I was transphobic and that they were calling for me to be fired immediately because of a tweet from 7 years ago. That's it. It wasn't even anything recent. I hadn't tweeted anything political in almost 3
And
years.
what was the tweet from? So they went through your history because you liked Hogwarts. They got upset. They went through your history. They found an old tweet from 7 years ago. And what was that tweet?
Basically, it was about the whole bathroom debate that was going on in
Okay.
2016. Basically, to summarize it, it was if you think the number of trans people crying about the bathroom is higher than the perverts who want to use the excuse, you're what's wrong with the world. That was the tweet, which to me, it was more, I wasn't grouping them. It was two separate groups, but they
Yeah.
saw that word and that word in the same sentence and were like, oh, you're obviously combining these two. You're claiming this group of people that are perverts, which is not it at all.
They're being
There's
disingenuous.
a lot of sex
Yes.
offenders out there in the world that will use an excuse to get into a vulnerable place for women.
Yes.
That's all it was. I have a
Predators.
younger sister that I worry about all the time. I am a small woman. I'm 5 foot freaking nothing. And like, that's the type of things that go through my head
Yeah.
is what can I do to make sure that if I'm out traveling by myself, what can I do to make sure I'm safe?
Yes.
That's it.
Predators will use anything. They'll take advantage of anything to get
Any
close to
opening.
prey.
And that's why you see a lot of them in workplaces that allow them to be around the type of people that they like to prey on.
Yes.
So
Priests,
I,
educators. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You see that, and those are the kind of things that you have to think about. And it's not, hey, I think everybody in this particular gender is like this. It's not it at all. I know trans people. I'm friends with a few trans people. It doesn't bother me at all. Like, you're living your life. You're not weaponizing it. You're not weaponizing your gender. I think that a lot of people who are trans are not hateful individuals, but there are a lot of people out there who do like to weaponize it and use it as a victim card.
Yes. Like with any part of the
Anything,
social justice, like
anything. It's like
identity Olympics.
I just was looking at Twitter and I saw this tweet about somebody who was just like, all men are evil. It's like, what? Like, I had this 2 encounters with men that made me believe that all men are bad.
Yeah.
Just like
I thought we
what?
got past that already, where you stereotype an entire group of people based on their race or sex and say they're all like this.
Mhm.
But
You'd think
yeah,
if you don't want to be looked at in that light, how about you not do the same thing?
right.
It's really, it's the hypocrisy of it all is exhausting.
So when you got this DM from your coworker said, "Hey, here's this individual who's tweeting about you and saying, pulling up your old tweet from 7 years ago saying you're transphobic." What was going through your mind? Was there panic? Was there any
Oh,
kind of
definite
yeah,
panic because I'd never experienced anything like that. Like, it was kind of shocking to one have that accusation thrown at me, and second because it's affecting my livelihood. Like, it affects my job and the workplace and the people that I enjoyed working with. And then also, we just moved to a different city to be closer to there. And it just kind of threw that in there and the stress over that, making sure bills are paid and all, like, there's just a whole lot of stress like piled up on each other. And so I basically didn't respond to anything throughout the day on socials just because people were starting to kind of dogpile on it.
mhm,
Um, and so I reached out to a couple of my bosses and we're just like, hey, I'm sure you've seen what's going on. Like, what can I do? Like, is there anything that I can do to help? Um, do you have any suggestions? And I didn't receive any responses until I got called into a meeting at 4:30 that afternoon. And it's just like, hey, you're fired.
wow, all within one day
Mm-hmm.
on January 6th.
Yep.
So I also read that one of the accusations, the mob that ended up forming against you and coming after you online that day, one of the things they also found problematic about you wasn't just that tweet from 7 years ago. It was that it was about the fact that you followed some conservatives on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a part of it also?
Yep,
That
they went
guilt
through
by
and
association?
screenshotted, the fact that, so they basically went through and everybody that they had blocked, they went through and just kinda scrolled through my following list and screenshotted everybody that they had blocked, so it was like Ben Shapiro, Blair White, um,
A trans
yeah,
woman.
yeah. And there's a handful of other ones, but a lot of them are accounts that I like to follow just to kind of play the balancing game.
Yes.
Of the 1,500 people that I followed on Twitter, 10 of them were conservative. That's it.
That,
Majority of the gamer scene leans more left. So I feel it's good to not be in an echo chamber
yes.
at all
That's
times.
see,
It's good to question things. It's okay to question things and not just say, "Hey, here's this one opinion. I have to believe that opinion. That opinion is right." It's okay to have that critical thinking skill.
it sounds like you're not in a cult, which which the people who push that, I believe they are, and I used to be in that cult. They don't believe in listening to people with different opinions. You can only
It's
listen
shut it
to
down.
one kind of opinion. You can only follow one kind of person, and that's
That's a dangerous
it's
mindset.
such a dangerous mindset, and it's one of the things I find most despicable about what happened to you is that whole it's some kind of Kafka trap of like you follow this conservative as if, first of all, as if there's something wrong with being a conservative or being a liberal, or
Mhm.
and then they're just assuming there is with this one, with being conservative, and then they're saying, and you follow them, so that's bad too because you might be one, or you might be supportive of that. And it's so dishonest, it's so
Yeah.
dangerous.
And the thing that I laughed about was, oh, she's actively spreading this information, actively like promoting aggressiveness towards the trans community, which in fact I was not. That
Mhm.
was a bold lie. And because one, I like you could I went through my every single one of my liked tweets from the last couple of years. I went through all of my tweets. And I was just like, because I was second guessing is like, was I like, I wanted to know like if I had said anything that people could take as offensive.
Mhm.
And there wasn't a single one. There wasn't a single tweet that I had liked that could even be considered um problematic or political in any way. I actively stayed out of that. The only political things I ever kind of stepped into was anything regarding cancel culture because I don't agree from it. I don't agree with it from any side. I don't agree
Right.
with people who are attacking. And a lot of the time, there's two sides to every story. And on the internet, you typically only see one side of a story. And that's what a lot of people, that was like with my situation. Like these people, they're like, oh, well, we see this one tweet and then the fact that they like this is that's all it takes to get a look at your personality or your oh, what is the word I'm looking for to sum up my my thoughts.
Your thoughts, yeah. The sum of
And
you, your
it's
the
and
tweets
that's
you like,
not it. That's not how it works.
right?
And I think that's really naive to look at something like that. And like I could take it like one look at somebody's tweet who was basically there's a couple of people who had given me death threats. And I could basically take that and be like, okay, so you're a bully or you are a violent human being by this one tweet that you sent to me. That's I could summarize you with that. Is that how you would like to be handled, or is is that okay? That's how I tried to look at it, and that's why I didn't react emotionally whenever it all first went down. I hid for like 2 weeks. I wanted to really look at it as much as I could from a rational perspective.
Mhm.
That's why I didn't tweet anything. I basically locked my account for, I think I locked my account for about a week because my little sister was getting married and I was traveling to go be with my family anyway. So I was just like, all right, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this break. I need it.
Yeah.
And basically, whenever I got back home, I opened everything back up.
Did you consider pursuing any legal actions?
I did. I spoke to a couple local lawyers. Um, mainly about defamation. And well, I'd spoken to a couple lawyers about the wrongful termination.
Hmm.
Nobody in North Carolina wanted to take it because it is
Yeah.
an at-will state.
It's an at-will state like Texas. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And I've considered taking legal action for defamation of character because it did basically get me blacklisted from a lot of outlets in the gaming industry. And the gaming industry is something I'm passionate about and a industry that I like to stay in. Whether I agree with everybody's political opinions or not, I don't think that it's necessary to have the same opinions with everybody that you work with. I think it's
Yeah.
okay to have varying opinions.
That's a liberal point of view. Did they not consider that? That's a liberal point of view.
But liberal isn't liberal anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
They've completely taken over the liberal political affiliation.
Yeah. They've done everything
And
they can to change the meaning of the word.
they have.
So what were some of the I want to get to some of the positive things, if there are any that you can identify yet, that have happened as a result of this. But before we get there, let's start with the negatives. Like, for anybody who might be going through this in their workplace, or being ostracized, or facing, losing their job because it's discovered that they have the wrong opinions, or, what were some of the things that they can expect, that how did it impact you?
Silence. Absolute silence from just about everybody I worked with. Out of the 100 people that I worked with at LRG, 2 of them reached out.
Cowards. That's what it is.
Yep.
Did
So
that teach you
it's
something about humans?
Oh yes. Oh yes. And I've recently figured out that there's 2 factions within the company right now. That there is a Kara didn't do anything wrong, and there's a Kara's bad person faction.
Well, and the
and the people who think the Kara's bad person faction are definitely louder than the people who don't agree with that.
That's one of the, I think, repercussions of cancel culture, and what happened to you is when they come for a person, and they, like you, for example, it's not just about punishing you for stepping outside the box, for having an
Punishing
unorthodox opinion.
everybody who
It's
could have even
punishing
considered
everybody.
me a friend.
Yes, it's basically using you to make an example, to keep other people quiet, and to encourage them to self-censor.
That's exactly what it is, too. Not a single person spoke up for me publicly. I don't ever
Wow.
expect Limited Run to ever make a public apology. It would be nice, but I don't ever expect that to happen. They've already kind of tried to sweep it under the rug as much as they possibly could.
Did you notice, I'm sure you did, but this person, the trans activist who started the mob against you, my Wednesday night co-host and I, we do a show called Popped Culture, and we did an episode on bronies in which we covered this person, Purple Tinker, quite a bit. Did you notice that people went through and said, hey, Limited Games, if you're going to be firing people over 7-year-old tweets, opinions you don't like, look at some of Purple Tinker's old tweets. Purple Tinker tweeted,
there's a blog documenting all of the harassment, all of the stalking, all of the threats, everything that they have done, and that not only recently, but that blog is almost 10 years old.
It's been a pattern with this person. And they've tweeted publicly in defense of some kids being able to have sex with adults.
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind that the company would take anything this person said seriously. Yeah.
And it hurt. It did hurt. It hurt a lot, the fact that they would take, like, not only they would take their side, as they wouldn't even ask me for my side of a story. I didn't get that chance. I was never given an opportunity to defend myself. It was just, hey, come into this meeting, you're gone.
Wow.
That's all it took. That's all it was.
Wow.
There's no loyalty. No, like, they've definitely preached, hey, LRG is a family. LRG is a family. Mm-mm. I don't see that anymore. I definitely, after being on this side of it, there's absolutely zero loyalty there.
Do you what are some of the are there any positives yet?
Yeah.
Having gone through this?
I have met some amazing people. People like yourself that I've had the opportunity to be on shows with, and just being able to be around other people that are like-minded, but also in effect people who are open to discussions,
Mhm.
people who are open to not silencing people. Like, even if I don't agree with somebody politically, or that doesn't mean that I don't respect your opinion. I've met a lot of people who I definitely greatly respect now. I've made some great friends.
Mhm.
I've had the time to kind of pursue content creation again. I've I realized I've been doing content creation for the last 10 years. Um,
Wow.
and I haven't gotten a job yet, but I have one, I think, in the works.
Okay.
I've had a few calls, with another one coming up. So fingers crossed, fingers crossed.
Okay.
But it's there have been positives. There's like the first few weeks of it was really dark. I will admit that. But after kind of like letting me, like, I had to really come to terms with the emotions that I was basically bottling up. I kind of spent like 2 or 3 days just kind of crying it out.
Yeah.
I feel a lot better now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Has it made you stronger?
I believe so. I mean, I think that if I've had a pretty rough life anyway, like just a lot of loss. So I think that kind of helped a bit. But yeah, I do think it helped me really see the internet for what it is, and to not take everything everybody says as as truth.
Mhm. Right. What they say about you, you mean?
I mean, in
Or
general.
other people. Have
In
you ever
general, it
Yeah.
really, like, after seeing this, it makes me, like, question everything, like, a lot of it, because people are so single-minded and very tunnel-focused into a singular subject, that it will cloud their opinions on everything else, and I think it's good to have, like, a broader perspective of many different topics.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do think it's made me stronger in the whole light of it all.
Have you seen the documentary? I think it's called Red Pill Journal. It's been a while since I've seen it. The Red Pill Diary, maybe. It's it's a documentary by a feminist filmmaker. Prior to this, her name's Cassie Jade. Prior to that, she made, I don't know, 3 or 4 very leftist kind of feminist documentaries. She started this one because she wanted to expose the men's rights, activists. And as she was making the documentary, she started to question a lot of what she thought about the other side.
Mhm.
And so the documentary ended up being something completely different than what she thought it was going to be. And I saw her interviewed somewhere else. She was interviewed in Mike Cernovich's documentary Hoaxed, and she said something. You just made me think of her because she said, when it happened to me, when there was a cancel mob that formed for me because of my doc, and suddenly the media and the press and everyone's smearing me and calling me a right winger now and anti-feminist now and stuff, which I'm not. She said, once it happened to me, I realized, oh, like all those people that I've seen smeared, maybe I should look into it.
Mhm.
Maybe it's not true.
Yep. And I've had that mindset as well, especially all this. Because, I mean, you see everything within, like, the Me Too movement, and how so many people, will just straight jump to accusations, a lot of the time. Like, I'm not saying a lot of them aren't true. It's just sometimes it's okay to ask questions, but in a respectful manner. It's not good to point fingers and to attack somebody, but it's okay to ask questions. I
Mhm.
think if somebody would have asked me questions when all this started, I think it would have gone a completely different direction, but they didn't want to do that. They wanted the clicks. They
Yeah.
wanted the headlines. And I think it backfired on them.
Yeah. I think so too. I think it's the Streisand effect.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, it looks bad for them. They were afraid of it looking bad for them with this cancel mob, but it looks so much worse because of their cowardice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, were you, this is a question I sometimes ask people. Were you aware of what woke ideology was before this, like social justice ideology, or
Yeah.
a little bit?
I mean, I've always tried. I follow cancel culture. I mean, I had to work online. Like a lot of my job description was being online 24/7. And so I saw a lot of it. But it doesn't like I it a lot of it went in one ear and out the other,
Mhm.
just because a lot of the headlines you just couldn't take seriously because of how absolutely ridiculous they were. You
Yeah.
thought they were satire when in fact they are
Yeah.
not satire. Uh it's like the Babylon Bee. Like you're like
Yes.
like that's an actual satire, but you're like, "Oh wait, that could actually what's sad is that's actually could."
That's why they had to start Not the Bee.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah.
real headlines. I don't know if you saw yesterday, Michelle from Force of Light shared this, and then I looked it up to see if it was real, and it is. It's Cracker Jack
Yes,
that
I
came out with
saw that.
Cracker Jill. That came out with Cracker Jill, so we
Like,
women would feel
why?
empowered.
I don't need that. I don't need that to feel empowered. Like, it's
Yeah.
just the things that people assume that people need to feel empowered or to feel welcomed. It's a lot of virtue signaling, and a lot of it is just like if like the way I look at it is if you are seeing this, if this is what you're constantly seeing, this might be a you problem. This is Gus.
Hey, little puppy. It's a we can have a dog break on the show anytime.
This is Gus. Gus is my good boy.
Hi,
This is the
Gus.
second thing he's crashed today.
Woohoo. I saw a shadow before I saw him, and I was like, "Oh, I think there's an animal coming in the
Dog.
room."
Yeah. He's like, snacks? Because I've got 2 treat jars over here, and he's just like, snacks? Snacks?
Oh, I
He'd be
can't
like,
even say that word around mine. I have to spell it because he knows that word. So
yeah.
I have to say a TREAT.
Excuse you, sir.
We're gonna have a little dog break.
Yep. Dog. Hey, you want this?
Oh, look at him.
He's just the biggest, gentle giant that you'll ever experience. It's like, I look at like a lot of it, you see a lot of people's perspective, perspective of bulldogs and how dangerous they are and how aggressive they are. And I think when in fact they're not, it all depends on how they're raised.
Yep.
And he's the like he's the sweetest dog I've ever encountered. He's the most patient dog. He doesn't invade my space. Like he doesn't bark. Like he is the sweetest dog I have ever had like the opportunity to meet.
Right.
And it kind of makes me think about the whole cancel cultures because a lot of people see a big scary dog and they're like bad, bad. People see one tweet, they see not even a tweet, see that somebody follows somebody and they just automatically label bad. And it's it's exhausting that people just get so focused, like hyper focused onto something
And jump to conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to talk to someone who was going through this, I did a panel interview about a year ago with some of the knitters. I don't know if you know, but there've been a lot of SJW wars in the knitting world, and a lot of knitfluencers who've been canceled, people who make their own yarn, people who make yarn patterns, and I'm
Oh
smiling because it sounds
gosh.
ridiculous, but it's happened. People, they were
I have
targeting
a
people's
friend who
businesses.
does that, who goes to, and like does and gets all of her wool and makes all of her yarn herself. Like,
Well, that whole world, just like gaming, infiltrated. And so I got to talk to 4 of the knitters, actually one sewist, who had been targeted. Their businesses have been targeted for cancellation, and we just talked about like advice for people who are going through it, because it can happen in any world. It can
It
happen in
can.
gaming, happen in knitting. So if someone stumbles across this video and they're the subject of a cancellation mob, or someone targeting their small business or their employment somewhere, like what advice would you have for them?
Step away first. The first thing I did was I put my phone down and I went for a walk. And I mean, I went and cried it out with my husband, and we went for a walk and kind of talked about things and really kind of set a plan first. But the one thing I can say is try not to, as hard as it is, try not to react emotionally, because that's whenever you sometimes say things you don't mean, or you say things that are hurtful or hateful or aggressive. And that's, if you do that, people are going to dogpile on you even more. And I think that was like one smart move that I made, was taking a step back and not immediately trying to, as probably beneficial as it could have been, is if I immediately defended myself, I think that would have come off as weak.
Yes.
And don't apologize. Don't apologize. If
Yeah.
you did not do anything wrong, do not apologize. I did not apologize, and I do not ever plan to apologize, because I did not do anything wrong, and I know I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And if you give in, that you give an inch, they take a mile.
Yep.
And they will attack you for any little thing, because they know that you'll give in, and you can't do that. That's probably my biggest thing, is just stick to your morals, stick to your values, and disconnect for a little bit before you make any rash decisions.
Yes. You make me think
Because
of,
that's what they want. They want a reaction. They
oh,
want a negative reaction out of it, so they can be like, see,
yeah.
they're bad. That's what they want.
Or they want to see you in pain, or they want to see you bend, take the knee, kiss the ring, apologize. You reminded me of this old saying I heard when I was a kid. I grew up in the Bible Belt in South Carolina. Um, and I remember seeing a church sign that said, if you give Satan an inch, he'll become your ruler. But that's the same
Mm-hmm.
thing with woke mobs. You give them an inch, you make that a demanded apology when you don't mean it, when you really didn't do anything wrong, and now they're your
Mm-hmm.
ruler. Now they own you.
Yep. And I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that at all. I don't think anybody should have that kind of power over anybody. I don't think that the woke mob should have any type of power over a company's decision. That is an HR's decision on if they decide to choose somebody or not. That is the company's decision on, like, anything. That shouldn't be somebody who isn't involved's decision in for any kind of anything, any predicament, any situation.
What is it, Kara, about you that you think, why were you able to withstand this and not make the demanded apology, or capitulate, or uh, bow to the mob? Or what is it about you that helped you withstand the woke peer pressure in the first place, to overcome any fear of saying, I'm excited about Hogwarts the game? Like, is there something I sometimes like to find out from people? Is it something in your past, or your upbringing, or experiences you've had, or what do you think it is?
I think the thing that really stuck with me is my mom was a single mom for most of my childhood. Like, my biological dad dipped before I was born. And I had a stepdad who came in and was amazing. Like, took in me and my older siblings, like treated us as his own. And then he passed whenever I was a teenager. And dealing with that, and I mean, I was the one who found him. So I think if I can handle that, I can handle anything. And
You're
it was
resilient. Yeah.
and like like I got a call from my mom when all this went down, and like my interview started to come out, and she's basically like, I have never been so proud.
Oh, your mom. Oh, that's just,
Sorry, like it was
it's
I
fine. I have shed some tears on this show. It's fine. I love that. So you had a very strong mom. You're resilient. You dealt with loss at a young age, and you're so right. These things sometimes we have to, I think, just step back and take that bird's eye view of like, at the end of my life, is
does
this going to
this
be that important?
matter?
Right.
And it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't at
Oh,
all.
honey, I'm so happy I got to meet you.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so happy I got to meet you. Okay, let's get away from your personal story for a second then. Let's talk about gaming and culture and the woke influence. There's been a lot of discussion about woke ideology and how it's affected pop culture, and there's a lot of uh, uh, the race swapping of characters now instead of coming up with new and original ideas with, you know, characters of different races. There's a lot of uh, talking down to the viewers, the consumers of games and movies and television, and what do you think about where we're heading culturally when it comes to entertainment? Like, are things about to get better? Are we at a place where there's still going to be a lot of this scolding,
I think we're
moralizing?
I think we still have a way to go before people are finally like, I am so done with this. Like,
Mhm.
I'm tired of people telling me what I can and can't think, what I can and can't enjoy, what I can and can't play. Um, I think there's still a little bit more of people giving in to that mob, that very loud minority, before
Yeah.
they're finally just put their hands up and like, I'm done. Let me do what I want to do. Like, I can see that there is a little bit of a change happening. Like there was a lot, like I was genuinely surprised, like especially with the whole Hogwarts Legacy thing, that there was some really good, like really bigger, like content creators who played the game, whether there was backlash or not. They're like, "Nuh-uh, like this isn't how this works.
It's
You
great.
don't dictate my content. I choose what I want to create content with." And I had a lot of respect for the people who did that. Um, and it's just it's exhausting. I don't think I mean, politics have always had a place in video games, like within the video games. I mean, you look at games like Far Cry, look at games like
Oh, that's what I've
Wolfenstein.
played. Okay, I know that one.
You look at games like Wolfenstein or Doom or like Wolfenstein, you're literally killing Nazis. So,
Oh, I haven't played that one. Okay, I gotta check that one out.
um, and like you see a lot of that. Like people didn't have a problem with that game whenever it first hit the PCs. Like I think it's like 30, 40 years ago. Like, why does this all of a sudden have a big bad like X label on it? Like, it's just, I think a lot of it is social media
Mhm.
and people having the ability to uh, basically say, hey, my opinion is more important than yours. My feelings matter more than yours do. You shouldn't do this. And that's dangerous.
Yes.
Like, you can't do that. Like, I can't let I can't walk down the street and think, "Hey, if I accidentally bump into this person, I can't think, "Oh my god, I might ruin their day." Like, you can't live in that fear. And that's
Yeah.
what a lot of, like, developers are doing now. You see a lot of it with publishers who are afraid or, like, cutting games because people are just um are, like, throwing tantrums
Yeah.
about games that are being made and the content that's in them. They have this power to dictate content that they could never create. I like if you want to do this, if you want to provide this narrative for people, do it yourself and don't dictate what other people make. And I do still think that we have a ways to go, especially for the gaming industry, because how loud the gaming industry is in general. before people finally say, shut up and
Yeah.
sit down. I'm gonna make what I want to make.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I started streaming Hogwarts. It's just like I streamed Hogwarts Legacy. I put like, God, I think I put like almost 80 hours into it. And it's just like, just because you bullied me online doesn't mean I'm not going to play this. I'm going to stream it so you can see I'm enjoying it. So suck it or go away. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care. Your opinion is not going to dictate how I live my life.
Right on. I love that. Where can people find you if they want to see your streams?
I have been streaming every weekday from like noon to 5 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/Kara Lynne. I've got to do some editing. I've got to learn how to use DaVinci Resolve now since I don't have access to Premiere or any of the Adobe stuff anymore. I've got to edit a few videos. But my full gameplay of Hogwarts Legacy will go up on YouTube at some point, which
Cool.
is just going to be Kara Lynne.
And we've got those links below so people can find you. Tell me, one of the questions I sometimes like to ask people too, because there are so many people who watch Deprogrammed who have told me sometimes it feels overwhelming. Like once you start paying attention to woke culture and seeing just how much influence it has in politics and entertainment and education, everything, it can feel very overwhelming. And so we like to focus on the positive things like Nina does on her Friday
I
shows.
love Infinite Hope on
So
Fridays.
yeah. So what is something that brings you joy and sustains you and keeps you going even when things seem overwhelming?
I mean, I like to play video games. I have my husband that I love, like he's my best friend. Like I love spending time with him.
Yes.
We like to watch our shows together. I personally avoid the news, like if I can. Like there are
Hmm.
of course headlines that I can't miss. But a lot of it I do try to I try to disconnect, like especially after streams and after it's hard to disconnect, especially after something like this has happened to you. You see it more often.
Hmm.
And I personally just try to stay off of social media after like a certain time in the day.
Hmm.
Whether it be going and curling up and watching a murder show or
I'm true crime. That's
yes, I
like
love it.
yeah. Okay. You got to talk to Murder Knits. She's one of the anti woke knitters, but she has a show called Murder, and she does true crime and knitting.
I love
You would
it.
love her. Or my other friend Tracy does keto and crime. But there's something about we've people that watch Deprogrammed. I've talked about this a lot, but I think women are more drawn to true crime than men because we're like it's about trying to figure people out or figure out
Mhm.
evil.
It's the psychological part of it,
Yes.
like, trying to like you said, it's trying to figure it out, like, trying to see the backstory on somebody and what led you from being born to murdering somebody.
Yeah. To this kind of evil. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it also helps us. It helps me anyway to understand. Like if you can understand it better on an individual scale, like why did this person take that dark turn? Then you can
Mhm.
understand people on a large scale better too when
I
there's
It
dark
also helps
moments.
you see manipulation tactics.
Mhm.
It helps you be a little bit more situationally aware. And I mean, even in your relationships, it helps you kind of see certain signs and that I mean, I read into it too much, but I actually I was watching an episode of Snapped recently and I realized I knew one of the people.
Oh no.
I realized I knew them. I was like, "What?" But the murder, she basically helped set up a murder of her husband. And this was in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And I think she still does. She runs a salon there. But she basically whenever she was young helped stage the murder of her husband. And she only went to jail for 4 years.
Wow.
and she runs a salon in Stillwater now. And I realized I applied to work at that salon whenever I first moved.
What? Goosebumps.
Right?
No.
I was like, oh, I dodged a bullet on that one.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
no idea because I just watched this episode of Snap like 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and this was 10. It was 13 years ago whenever I moved there. So it
Wow.
was. I was like, holy crap! I did not see that.
So
Like, I knew
freaky.
that she was the sister of the guy from All American Rejects, but I had no idea she was involved in a murder.
No. Oh, that's the other reason to watch it, I guess, is to see who you know.
Like,
Is
my favorite was always looking at the jailbirds. Did you guys have jailbirds, where
in the
you were at?
paper?
Yeah.
No.
Basically, it showed, like, who all got arrested over that weekend,
No.
and
Is
it
this a
showed
small
all the
town?
mug shots, like, and I would see, like, I did hair, and I was in a college town, so I would see so many of my clients on there for, like, DUI or, like, oh, man, like, it was hilarious. That was
Wow,
always one
that
of my
sounds like
favorite
a
things.
small town thing.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
very small college town.
Yeah. Okay, so what's some aside from true crime and some what's some entertainment that and aside from Hogwarts, the game, what's some entertainment that you're enjoying lately that you think is just good fun?
Well, today is Ted Lasso day. The last season of Ted Lasso is out on Apple TV,
Okay.
and it is the most wholesome show I've ever watched, hands down. And like, you wouldn't think it. You're like, oh, this is a show about some American who gets brought in to be the manager for some British football club. You're like, oh, it's a sport thing. I'm not gonna like that. But
Mhm.
it is the most amazing and just uplifting show you will ever watch. Hands down.
Wow,
If
okay.
you need a pick me up, if you need to laugh your butt off, if you need a good cry, if like it is good.
I've
It
no
is
one's
really,
ever recommended that one to me. Okay,
oh
I'm gonna put it on
man.
my list.
It is absolutely amazing. I think it was either season 3 or season 4 just came out today. That's my plan after this.
You're
Is
gonna go enjoy it.
I'm comfy pants and Ted Lasso.
Nice,
That's my plan.
nice. Well, thank you so much, Kara, for spending the time with us, with the
Of
Deprogram
course.
audience. Everybody, you can find Kara's links below if you want to go and give her a follow, check out her content, and any parting words before you leave.
It's fantastic to meet you for one.
It was so nice to meet
It's
you.
just that our chance encounter on
Yeah,
Toxic Femme. Who
that
would
show's
have thought?
fun.
It was so
Yeah,
much fun. I really enjoy doing Toxic Femme, and I'm excited that I'm a regular on there now because
yeah,
it's been really great. Just getting to chat with other girls in the industry for one.
yeah. Great ladies
Yes,
they bring together.
absolutely. It's
Yeah,
funny people.
yeah,
Like talk about the news, but be funny while you're at it. Like it's great.
yeah,
And but yeah, I mean, I really it's just if you feel like supporting, I like to stream on Twitch every weekday. Come for the games, stay for the weirdness. I get very derailed really quickly. I went from playing Final Fantasy VII Remake the other day to watching the 20-minute YouTube video of Markiplier doing Smash or Pass for all the Pokemon. Um,
Goodness, that should be your tagline.
stay for the weirdness. It's a little weird, but I have a really good core community right now. Like, it is, I've never felt so welcomed into a community as after all of this went down. So many people reached out, and I just want to say how thankful I am, because it really meant a lot, especially whenever people that I thought close for me were the most silent.
Yeah, that's when you
And
find out who is made of metal
mhm.
and
And
who's
it was
not.
rough. It was tough, but I've definitely figured out who the real ones are.
Mhm.
And I'm very grateful for it and greatly appreciative of everybody who I've met, including yourself.
Well, thank you, Kara Lynne. Thanks for stopping by.
Of course, I had a lot of fun chatting with you. A little emotional, but
Yeah.
I'm really glad I got the chance to chat with you today.